So around
Good
39.
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Who have joined today only? First class. Did everyone attend yesterday?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Most of them.
Yes, sir. We attended yesterday.
Okay. So yesterday, what did I tell you?
Variables, sir.
About
Variables, sir.
Yes, good. And also I asked you to
Read all other units.
Yes. Little bit of the previous one, okay, which we have already completed. Okay, so research methodology is about. Can anyone tell me? Sandhya?
Researching, sir. So searching the facts, truth, which are already existed.
Which are already existing, okay. Good. Anyone?
Adding knowledge to the existing one.
Good. Adding knowledge to the existing knowledge. That is, we are researching, okay, which is already presented. So we are trying to research it. Okay, good. Good. Venugopal? Harsha, Harshita? So anything? Okay, Kalyan is present. Good. Ravichandra is also present. Good. Okay, so two of them I know. Maybe the other one, okay, if I look at the faces, okay, maybe I will know them, okay. I will remember them. Yeah, another one. So what do you mean by research? Because my students have already attended, it's boring for them. Because someone asked,
New knowledge, sir.
yeah, because someone asked me yesterday to repeat everything, so that's not possible. So let me check if you have read anything or not. Go ahead. Someone was talking.
Scientific methods, sir, to
Good.
acquire any new knowledge with scientific evidence and with valid results.
Good.
And
Scientific inquiry. Good.
Yes, sir. Inquiry.
Good. Okay, so this particular paper is talking about different techniques and methodology. Okay, it's talking about different methods, how you conduct or go about with, okay, doing a research. Yesterday class we talked about particularly
Variables.
Good. So what is a variable?
Which can be measurable, maybe characters, events, objects.
Good. Okay, quality, characteristics. Okay, event. Okay, that is of the experimental interest which you would like to study. Okay, but what are the characteristics it should have to be called as a variable? It should
changeable, so it should be
good. It
changeable.
should vary.
There should be a change or vary.
Should vary or it should change. Good. Next one. Measurable. The change I should be able to measure.
Measured in the form of quantity.
Good.
Time specific also, sir.
Okay, maybe. Okay, what you're talking about in terms of context. Okay, that context that can be independent. That can be the other variable. That keeps changing. Okay. First thing should change. If it is changing, should take different values.
Should be measured.
Yes, different values, and that value should be measured. Okay, three characteristics. Okay, then generally how many types of variables we have?
Dependent, independent variable, dependent, and extraneous variable.
Extraneous variable. Okay.
Dependent and independent.
Good. Okay, so this is from experimental point of view. Okay, Experimentally, we have independent, dependent, and intervening variable. Okay, can anyone explain what is independent, dependent, intervening variable so that others will also come to know? Anyone? Pushpalata? Yeah, anyone?
Independent means we can manipulate the things, we can change it. Independent variables, we can manipulate.
Okay. The variable which can be changed or which is technically called as manipulated or controlled. By whom?
By dependent variable.
Experimenter.
By the experimenter. Good.
Experimenter.
By the experimenter, based on the purpose of the experiment, the type of changes, experimental conditions, okay, which is called as manipulations. If the variable can be manipulated, it is called as independent variable. Okay. An example of independent variable can be
Teaching methods.
good. Okay. That I referred. Okay. Any new one? Galaxy M20.
Yes, yesterday you said about food habits.
Good. I said, but you should tell today.
Okay, sir.
Anything I would like to know from you. I talked about maybe a pocket money, award, a reward, different training programs also. Okay, training program. Independent variable, anything?
Sir, incentives.
Good.
Incentives.
Incentives, okay. Broader, awards, rewards, etc. Different government schemes and its effect on people or their attitude towards the governments. Okay. Then what is dependent variable?
Sir, here mentioned type E, type S, independent variables in textbook. What is that?
We will talk. You don't know about variables only, no?
Means it's mentioned, missed, I thought. I don't know.
Yes. It's mentioned, but basic things you know, don't know, no? So if you start we talking about all that, no, you get confused. Okay. So what is dependent?
Variable can be measured by the experimenter, sir. Means the effect of that variable.
Okay.
We'll call that independent variables. Means the effect we can measure it by the experimenter, which can be measured. It is called as an independent variable.
Good. An example. For example, someone talked about incentive and its effect on
Performance of the worker, performance of the employee.
okay. Another one. For example, different teaching methods. Someone said about that. So teaching method and its effect on
Drugs on blood pressure.
Results.
what was that?
Drugs are the any food will
Achievement of the
affect on the
students.
health.
The results,
Achievement of students. Okay, good. Their performance. Okay. Sandhya talking about okay, different types of drugs and you mean different types of drugs, medicines, or
Drugs on the health, for example, drugs used by hypertensive patient, how the blood pressures will be changing, or diet modification, how the blood pressures are controlling.
okay.
We can measure it. It means low fat foods, if you are taking, blood pressure maybe come down. We can measure the levels of blood pressure.
Okay, good. Okay, so dependent variable, how you define a dependent variable? So these are very, very important. So without knowing this, we cannot carry experiment. So that is the reason we are stuck here. I can simply go on telling and just move on. So, but if you don't know these things, no, you won't be able to do anything. Okay, cause
variable
and
which can be measured by the experimenter.
good.
Is a dependent variable.
Yeah. Independent is the one which I can experiment as a change. For example, light, music, environment. Teaching, okay, teaching methods can be changed. Awards, rewards can be changed. Incentives, okay, incentives can be different forms of incentives. And its effect on, if I'm saying as a performance. So performance is dependent on the incentives. Okay, then performance becomes
Dependent.
dependent. Okay, how much you're learning is depending on teaching. You agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if your learning is dependent on the teaching, okay, this teaching can be in different forms. Okay, I can tell it. Okay, as a oral, or I can make use of some slides. If it is a science subject, especially, so I can make use of it. Diagrams, specimens. So based
Different
on
methods.
yeah, different methods can be used. Okay, I can check it out. Okay, how much effect it is having on that. Okay, so independent, dependent. Then what is the other one?
Extraneous variable.
Extraneous variable.
Good. Extraneous variables are
Intervening.
Intervening.
yeah, intervening variables. Okay, so what does they mean by that?
Addition independent variables.
Okay, they are other than of the interest of the experiment. Okay, so experiment is not interested, but they have equal effect or impact on the dependent variable. Okay, they're called as extraneous, or as they're interfering between independent and dependent, they're called as intervening variables. Okay, when it comes to non-experimental or in terms of measurement, so what are the types of variables?
Qualitative and quantitative.
Okay, good. Qualitative, quantitative.
Continuous and discrete.
Good.
Constancy of condition.
Good. Okay, don't get confused. Okay, qualitative, quantitative, then continuous,
Discrete.
good, excellent.
Discrete.
Okay, non-continuous, or which is actually called as discrete. Okay, what is qualitative?
You can't assign any numbers to that, but we can set some grade.
We cannot measure in a numerical value.
Excellent.
Cannot be measured.
The qualities, attributes where you cannot assign a numerical value, then it becomes quality. If a numerical value can be assigned to it value, then it becomes quantitative. As simple as. Then what can be continuous?
The thing which is not discrete.
Excellent, super answer. Then what is discrete?
The thing which is not
continuous. Which is not continuous. Huh? So what can be continuous variable? Yesterday we have attended. Just tell me so that you can move on.
Height, weight,
Yes, sir.
Height, weight. Good.
Height, weight, point something is continued.
Yeah, which can take continuous values. Okay, like
Yes,
we have
sir.
height, weight, etc. Okay. Then what can be our discrete?
We can usually count them. Then we call them as
Which is fixed, sir. There is no change.
And generally, it cannot take the continuous values. For example, as we can count family members, or maybe genders. Okay, genders can be male, female, or the
male or female.
Third genders. Okay, likewise, where you can categorize them. Okay, that is the reason we call them as categorical variables also. Okay, then your friend was talking about what is E type and S type. Okay, under independent variables. Okay, E, just always remember, E is experiment. Okay, E stands for experimentally manipulated. E for experimental, just remember that. Then what can be S? Sample or selection. At the time of selecting the sample, Okay, if you're picking certain characteristics, certain attributes, so that is S type of independent variable. Yes for sample, just remember. E
Control
for
or selection.
E for
Experiment.
experimentally manipulated. Okay, as simple as that. And but generally you should remember independent, dependent, and intervening variables. Okay, then we talked about yesterday certain other things also. What about that? Experimental
Control.
Removal or limiting.
Experimental control, sir.
Techniques of experimental control.
good. Techniques of experimental control. So what are these techniques actually?
Elimination.
Elimination.
One
Technique
of them is
elimination.
technique of
Control the
elimination.
extraneous variables.
Yes, yes. Sana, first you tell me what these are used for actually. When we
These
saying
techniques
experimental
are
controls.
used to control the extraneous variables in a experiment.
Excellent. Okay, you repeat once again so that others also will listen to that. Good. So what are experimental control techniques?
These techniques are used to control the extraneous variables in our experiment.
Good. Okay, so please remember, techniques of experimental control are the techniques which are used to control or to minimize extraneous variables. Okay, I talked about why we have to control them. Why can't I remove them? So what was that example?
Sir, you gave an example that if someone is disturbing your class intentionally, you
You can
remove them.
eliminate them.
Yes, but most of the time extraneous variables would be
Constants.
part and parcel of our experiment where I cannot completely
Removal.
remove
For
them.
example, completely fasting.
Exactly. For example, that, or for example, the previous knowledge. Just think about, can I have control on your previous knowledge?
No.
No, sir.
Can I ask a person not to think about?
No, sir. Can't say.
No, sir.
You getting me?
Yes,
We
sir.
talked about food and everything, okay? To make you simple, I said that we cannot, the simple logic, no, we cannot ask a person to completely dry. Okay, complete not to take food. But for example, to go for a little abstract things, for example, the previous knowledge. Can I ask a person not to think or recall the previously learned things? Do I have a control on that?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Now you got me?
Yes, sir.
Food?
Yes, sir.
Food which is physically present, I talked about a physical one. At a abstract level, I'm talking about a quality like the previous one. Do I know how much knowledge you have? Or can I ask a person not to think about? If I say, yes, sir, I'm not thinking about, is there any guarantee?
No, sir. We can't.
Scientifically, with confidence, can I say that, okay, the person is not thinking about?
No, sir.
Yeah, so in that time, we talked about S type of independent variable. What is S stands for?
Sample.
Selection.
Sample or selection of sample, okay? For example, if I think that knowledge of little bit of psychology will help the person to score good. So at the time of selection, what can I do? Non-psychology students, if I pick them, there is every possibility that the person don't know about this. To a certain extent, I can guarantee that.
Yes, sir.
You getting me? How S type selection at the time of selection, how independent variables can be selected. At the subject level, I'm trying to eliminate. With an assumption that I am picking a non-psychology person, with an assumption that there is little possibility that the person might be knowing about the in-depth knowledge of the psychology. You agree with me?
Yes, sir.
So that is yes and E type of independent variables. Selection. So how you select? Okay. Then we talked about certain techniques yesterday. What was the first one? Technique of
Removal or
removal or elimination. Okay, I would like to know.
Constancy of condition.
I would like to know from Ram. Okay, all my girl students are okay. They're okay, taking the lead and they're not making Ramu to speak. Okay, can I hear from Ramu? If he's okay, then only. Ramu got disappeared. Okay, so techniques of elimination. What does it mean? You try to eliminate, or technique of removal.
Control. Removal.
Yeah, removal. If there is a possibility, if I can remove, I can completely remove that, or I try to eliminate. Okay, as you talked about, okay, if someone in this context, yes, I can have control. I can keep that distance away from this particular ongoing process of online teaching and its impact on your knowledge. Okay, or if it is the light environment, yes, I can do that. I can shift to a new room. Or if it is not so important for the survival, I can ask person not to go for that. Okay, if it is not other than food kind of thing, okay, where food is must, if it is not so important, maybe I'm asking a person to remove that. Okay, technique of elimination or removal. Then constants of condition. What is this constants of condition?
If the variables cannot be removed as such, then we try to maintain the consistency of these variables across all the experiments that we perform.
Good. Maintaining similar experimental conditions or constant conditions throughout my experiment. Good. As simple as that. If I have to take or if I have to test, persons may be advised as part of my research, I make sure that the environment is not changed, which can bring me a little bit of confidence that as the climate is everything is same, whatever the changes if I'm observing, maybe that is because of my experimental manipulation. You agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Conditions, for example, I said, if something like, for example, say summer, there was a power cut or something else, and maybe if it is before a classroom or before training, so because of that fatigue and all that, okay, the person might have not done well, but maybe after training, if I'm trying to take a feedback and everything, again exam I'm taking, maybe if they have proper ventilation and all that, so because of that, if they are giving a good responses, or if they're getting more score, and if I mistakenly think that, okay, that is only because of my training, so this is how I can be at a wrong side. My results may not be genuine. So that is the reason, if I can maintain the same conditions, the possibility of that particular effect can be nullified. Okay, then next technique, please write down balancing. So what you mean by balancing? Balance. What can we call as balance? Okay, to maintain a common thing. Okay, maintaining a balance, commonality between one or two things.
Sir, can you give an example?
For only one group, can this balancing can be done with one quantity? Or if I have a two, generally in a common balance, what we have? Maybe there are two pans or what? Single one?
Two pans with equal weights.
Okay, so how are we checking or testing them? What if it is, okay, they are not balanced? By chance factor, if it is maybe towards the weight side or towards that particular commodity or the things which you are taking, if it is already bending
Means
towards that,
which experimental means whichever the variables we are taking, the extraneous variables need to be balanced, sir, like that.
maybe no.
No,
For example, then we have only one group. If I am conducting an experiment, so whatever results I am getting, if I have only one group, I need to take that as because of my experimental conditions. So to be onto the safe side, to make a comparison, so I will have another group. Okay, I am taking two groups. For one group, okay, I am giving the experimental manipulation or a change, and the other one or the other group is without any experimental changes to that. Okay, when I compare the results of both the groups, okay, for example, if one group is taking a bridge course, the other one is without any bridge course or extra classes. And if I take a test, so which group would be doing better?
Those who have taken bridge course.
Or a child who is taking a tuition or extra class and a child who is not taking a tuition or an extra class. Okay, the one who is given incentive, the other group which is not given an incentive. So which person or which group is expected to perform better? Okay, so one organization or one group, it is a casual as usual. If they're working, if they're not working, they are paid only salary. Maybe for the other team, if you are giving them certain incentives. So whenever they are achieving something, no, you trying to reward them. So which group is expected to do better?
Those who get incentives will do better, sir.
Okay. What if I don't have, okay, these two groups? If I have only one group, can I compare this particular thing with regard to this particular rewarding and not rewarding?
No, sir. No.
Maybe not possible. Okay. So that is the reason in experimentation. So we try to go with two groups. Okay. One group is called control group, right? Control group. The other one is called as experimental group. Simple. Experimental group is a group which is undergoing or getting exposed to experimental situations, or the independent variable is manipulated, controlled. Experimental conditions are introduced. The other one, which is called as controlled group, is without any exposure to the experimental conditions.
Sir, one example could be the effect of video games on the mental health of children, or violent games, how they're going to affect the mental state of children.
Good.
So that can be one experiment group, no, sir?
Yes. Maybe two brothers. One is playing violent video games, the other one is not playing a video game. So if I check who is aggressive, okay, at individual level, or can be two groups, different groups. Okay, one group is getting exposed to the so-called violence in terms of maybe even a cartoon. You should never think that, okay, it's always about movies. Even in cartoons, they're showing about violence, no? If they kill someone, or if they're firing someone, they're getting some points.
Yes, sir. Nowadays, cartoon is showing all violence.
You agree with that?
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, sir.
The character would be having a big hammer. They would be okay, smashing everyone.
Yes.
Okay, whenever they're smashing, they're getting some points.
Yeah.
Either it's getting big, small, whatever it may be, it's getting some
And
superpowers.
children are also getting happy.
You're getting me?
Yeah.
So two brothers, one who is attending a tuition, the other one is not attending a tuition. Okay, if I just look at the results, can I come to know that? What is the effect of this particular going for a tuition on his achievement? If both are at equal levels, initially they should be at the same level. So one is going for an extra class or a tuition, the other one may be not going. So if there is any difference between these two persons, and if this particular person is taking extra class, if he is excelling, then I can say that, okay, that excellence maybe it's because of this particular so-called extra classes. Okay, so to check, to compare, so we have two groups which are called as, okay, experimental and control groups. Okay, but you should always remember that, as I said, before you conducting experiment, both the groups should be equated.
Okay.
Okay, balance. There should be a balance between both the groups. For one group, what I'm trying to observe, what I'm trying to change, so that change I try to introduce to one group, that is called experimental group. Other group is without any exposure or change. I try to look at the overall result. So if without exposure, so if there is any difference, so that can be because of only what we call as the experimental exposure or experimental change, experimental manipulation. You getting me?
Yes, sir.
So rather than having one group, if you have two groups and if you compare, is it more scientific?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but if you have to have two groups, then you should have double sample. If one group is of 50 students, so I should have how many? 50 plus 50?
100.
100 students. And these 100 students should be, before the experiment, they should be balanced. Okay, remember that. Okay, then next, counterbalancing. Okay, counter. For example, yesterday I talked about a sequence effect. Okay, sequence 1 followed by sequence 2. Or I said about, okay, maybe first hour, if some class is going on, and at the evening, maybe my particular class is at the, okay, evening or the last class. Okay, will both be equal in terms of activity?
No, sir.
Can be different reasons, maybe fatigue.
We'll be tired of listening.
Yes. Monotonous. Okay. Physical fatigue would be there. Okay. So if I think that that can be the reason. So in this counterbalancing, so at one time they try to do, okay, paper 1 first, paper 9 last, maybe paper 6 over, right? 6 in the first class, this research last one. Okay, and also they try to counterbalance that, reverse that. Research methodology followed by the first paper. If I'm changing also, if there is a same difference, then I can say that there is no effect of this particular what we call as fatigue, etc. Because even if it is at the last period, the results are same. Even if it is at the first also, the results are same. But to make it still simpler, if my student have to memorize list of 2 sets, list 1 followed by list 2. If I think that maybe memorizing list 1 is helping them to learn list 2. Okay, to break that, what I can do, Balito, I can first make them read second list followed by first list to check whether what my assumption was that, okay, maybe list 1 is helping person to memorize list 2 more. So that effect can be counterbalanced by reversing the order or reversing the sequence. 1 followed by 2, the second condition, I may go with 2 followed by 1. So what it is called as?
Counterbalance. Balancing.
Counterbalance.
Okay, like sequence effect, or what we called in terms of like, okay, maybe fatigue, etc. If I think these can be the reasons, so to nullify them, what I can do, Bulito, I can break the sequence. So was that okay?
Yes, sir.
Simply what I said, 1 followed by 2, I can break the sequence. I can conduct experiment 2 followed by 1 with an assumption that, okay, I'm not helping students to learn second one easily. If the results are same, I can, with confidence, scientifically, I can say that, okay, there was no effect of 1 on 2. For example, numbers followed by statistics. Maybe someone is memorizing numbers, maybe because of that statistic kind of a thing, formulas, etc. So if it is helping them, I can reverse that. Or nonsense with meaningful words, etc. Okay, once you come to experimentation, then you will understand. Okay, maybe practical classes, you will understand this better. But as of now, just try to understand that if I think that in a sequence, because of the sequence, if one is helping the other one, I can try to break that by reversing the sequences. As simple as that. 1 followed by 2, or first I'm asking a person to perform the activity 2 followed by activity 1, or list 2 followed by list 1. Anything. It can be task, it can be activity, it can be doing a piece of work, or it can be as simple as that, memorizing a list of words. Up here it's okay?
So, sorry, actually, this is my first class, so I may not have a prior knowledge to understand this. So this balancing and counterbalancing, basically, with the examples that you gave, I was a little bit confused. I mean, what exactly that we are trying to achieve. In the balancing, you mentioned that people with a additional parameter that is influencing the experiment will have a different results. So we are considering that as a extraneous variable. Is that it?
No.
Okay.
Experimental manipulation we're talking about. Extraneous is different, experimental manipulation or experimental control.
So by doing the balancing act and the counterbalancing, what exactly are we trying to achieve? To eliminate the extraneous variable effect on the experiment, no? No?
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
Okay. So we are trying to look at scientifically independent and dependent variable. So these all can be the, okay, extraneous variables. Okay. To have clarity. Okay, this particular balancing, we try to have another group. When it comes to counterbalancing, the sequence effect especially can be ruled out or can be nullified. Okay, balancing, we are trying to go with the 2 groups. Remember that, control group and experimental group.
Means with the equal kind of traits or equal kind of characteristics.
Yes.
But here, like you
this is
have
complete. This is completely different now. We are talking about a sequence effect.
It can be a mixed thing, but the sequence that you are doing in one thing, you are doing totally opposite in the another group, so that the effect is nullified.
Good.
Okay.
So this is a technique where if I have to do with, okay, a set of activities, and if I think that one activity is maybe in some way or the other way facilitating to do the other activity. Okay, for example, as I said, simply list 1 and list 2, if a student have to memorize them, maybe because of list 1 is without any effort, maybe is trying to memorize list 2. So that can be break if I introduce or if I try to do it in the reverse way, saying 2 followed by 1. Okay, sequencing effect. Okay, no problem. Next, randomization. Please write down randomization. So if you say random, what does it mean?
Doesn't follow any sequence.
Good. Randomly, you're trying to select. So how can I select randomly?
In a group, you can select 1, 5, 7, 8. However, randomly you can select.
For example, as of now, I have 51 students.
Yes, sir.
And if I have to know, so how much my students could learn and who are active, and especially they are popping upside. Okay. So they are at the top now. So if I start picking their names and if I ask them, so will I going to get correct answers or wrong answers?
That we cannot say, basically. I mean,
for example, Anita, Shalini, Swaroop, so they have been interacting with me. Have down the list, okay, many people. But if I have to only check 1 or 2 people, and if I pick the top 1 or 2, so will I going to get responses from them or not?
You will get, but it is not random, no, sir.
Good. Good. Okay. So in the same way, when it comes to a merit list, okay, so this we discussed many times in the class. Okay. If I have to take maybe out of, look at that, 49 now. Out of 49, if I have to pick 9 students, and if I have a merit list, and if I think that, okay, if I can pick the top 9 people, so will they be in a situation to answer my questions or not?
They will answer.
They will answer, but it is also not in a random selection.
Random.
Okay. So for that, should I do any research kind of a thing?
No.
No, sir. No.
Okay. So to make or to break that particular chance factors, okay, so I need to pick these 9 samples or selected 9 people from out of the 40. So I need to pick randomly. So what is the best way to pick randomly?
Shouldn't
In
see
one
any
class,
other
you said about
features.
a lottery method that we can use
Okay.
for selecting the sample randomly, sir. And fishbowl method.
Mhm.
Can we use that in these techniques?
We will talk about that. Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Probably with the admission numbers.
Admission numbers, if it is by first come, first serve.
It is not random.
But actually, we are talking about the their knowledge on the subject, right? So obviously, I don't think the sequence or the first come
For
will
example,
have any effect
for example,
on.
if it is a common entrance, so who all would be the top of people?
No.
You getting me? If I go with some sequence, there is every possibility that they may be maybe more intellectual. Coming down the list, maybe intelligence they are getting reduced in terms of maybe the last rank people. The best method what I can do is picking them randomly, which we call it as a lottery method. Can a lottery method guarantee that all the 50 people as of now have equal chances of getting selected?
No.
Yes, they do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shalini, no?
I don't
Yes.
feel, sir.
For
No,
example,
sir. We can't cover all the groups equally. We can't.
Yeah, we cannot cover everyone.
So 49 example, seventh place like that we can select, no, sir. Till 49 we can pick.
for example, Shalini,
Sir.
you have gone for a shopping and the season is going on. They said like, okay, there would be lucky draw at the end of the sales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe you have visited on the first day. So what is the chances of you getting selected?
Don't know, sir.
If
Equal
they
chance.
have if they have placed a box and if they're asking people to just drop their slips,
There is a chance, but we are not sure that we'll be selected.
There is a chance. That is a.
Yeah, there is a chance.
Everybody has an equal chance. Basically,
Equal
what
chance.
is yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what is the
There is
like
there is a probability, right?
Yeah, probability of getting a chance.
Okay, for example, you have visited first day and if you have started dropping, so who will have the better chances of getting selected? If that is a way of picking.
Okay, the last one, the first one.
First one will become go
the last
down.
and
The last.
yeah.
So for that, should I do any research and say, okay, who will be getting selected?
No, not necessary.
No, sir.
Yeah. So in the experimental condition, maybe if I'm talking about academic performance marks, and if I start picking someone from a list, because I need only 10 people out of 50. So if I start picking top 10 people or down 10 people, so there can be a chance factor.
Yes.
Okay, to break that chance factors. Okay, so I try to mix everyone. I try to disturb the order. Okay, shuffling I do. What they do in the lottery method?
Yeah, they do shuffle.
They shuffle.
They shuffle everything because I don't know. The last person, okay,
Might
is
be
going
the
to
first
mix
one. Yeah.
first one or everything. From that, they're trying to pick, okay, maybe the 9 or 10. Okay, so randomization. So randomization is a technique or simple lottery method. We call it as lateral method. Technically, in research methodology, they call it as randomization, as simple as. Okay, so randomization is also done to make or to control or to minimize these extraneous factors like, okay, bias or chance factors, etc. Okay, randomization, remember. So this word is going to be used intensively in the research. Okay, randomization. Then the last part, it is talking as experimenter as an extraneous variable. So without experimenter, can we do experiment?
No, sir.
No,
No, sir.
Then they're saying no, the experimenter itself can become an extraneous variable. So
yes,
how
they can influence the result of the experiment.
How?
Based on like their knowledge of it and based on their what do you call their personality will affect that.
Okay.
And also their interests, selective perception. I mean, we heard that in the last class.
Okay. Last class तो कौन सा Raju sir counseling. Before this, you had counseling? Personality.
Yes. Yeah. So, like basically, if they, for example, they will have some, what do you call, bias. Yeah, bias, especially. They will be like based on their gender or whatever their interests are, they are biased towards the result. So in that way, they can actually affect the results of the experiment.
Yes, to a certain extent. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay, but experimenter especially, so when as an experimenter, so when they try to, while giving certain instructions, so if the people are changing, can the message what they're trying to tell can change? Will all the people would be conveying same way?
No, it will be changed.
No, sir. No.
Okay, the intention or the message would be same, but okay, experimenters. So when they try to give certain instructions to the experimentees or part of experiment, so their instructions can create the way they understand as the experimenter, the way they understand and what they're trying to tell can convey different to different the subjects or the experimenters who are taking or who are part of our experiment. You agree with this?
Yes, sir.
For example, we talked about two groups, experimental and control group. If two people are giving certain instructions or talking to two different groups, can they convey the same thing?
Sir. No, sir.
Can there be possibility of distortion or what they're trying to tell can be getting disturbed or changed?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is how experimenter or experimenters. So when they are dealing with different groups, maybe if experimenters are changing, so there also there can be chances that what they're trying to tell can be different. Okay, so that is the reason. So if that has to be ruled out, what can we do? If same instructions have to be given to all, what can we do? Either same person should give instructions to both the groups. One thing.
Yes, sir.
If not, some recorded instructions.
Yes.
If you record common instructions.
Yes, it will be helpful, sir.
And if you try to play that, maybe to a certain extent, it can eliminate.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so that type of. And as your friend said, okay, their age, their sex. Okay, so all these things can also have impact. The way he is thinking, the way he is biased also. Okay, and also while taking a record, that is what we call as data collection. Yeah, I'm getting the echo of myself. Priya or someone whose mic is on. Yeah, so data collection. While collecting data, if you're trying to involve more than one experimenter, okay, the certain procedures followed. Okay, if they are not same, certain techniques also, techniques at the time of analysis can also be the reasons. Okay, so this is how, as a friend said, okay, final, the interpretations. So what the thinking and what they try to, okay, how did they comprehend? So based on their previous knowledge, their experiences, they try to interpret in a different way. So all these can become, okay, extraneous variable from the experimenter. So experimenter can also sometimes become, okay, extraneous variable, or he can create certain, okay, what we call as distortions to the results of our research. Okay, so how to control bolito? It's better that you make sure that one experimenter is present to all the groups. If that is not possible, we can give them the recorded instructions. Okay, the same set of instructions if you try to give to all the groups. Okay, so this is how we can try to control and avoid certain extraneous variable to creep into this particular experimental setups. Okay, so this was with regard to variables and techniques of experimental control. So we have another half an hour. Okay, so let's not waste. So then we will talk about unit 9. Okay, please write down research design. Okay, try to remember that variables very, very important. So in examples, generally for a short, they may ask you what is that independent variable, or for essay types, no, generally they ask you about, okay, what are different types of variables. Okay, just if you can explain them with examples, you're going to get marks. Okay, and also followed by the particular question, what are different techniques of experimental control. So that was the reason, though we completed yesterday variables, but I'm trying to recall it again because they are very, very important from experimentation point also. So you should be able to know what is independent, what is dependent. So without that, you cannot conduct an experiment. So you should be able to know what they mean by independent, what they mean by dependent variable. Okay, I hope you got clarity about variables and
Sir,
types
your
of
voice
variables.
is breaking, sir.
Okay. Now?
It's okay, sir.
Yes.
Is that okay now?
Yes, clear.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So research design. So what you mean by design? So we already know what is research. So we're talking about a research design. So what can be a design?
Plan.
Good. So if you have a plan, what all it is talking about?
The process that we need to follow, the steps that we need to
Yes,
go
sir.
through.
Before entering into the research,
Okay, generally what steps
are the
we have?
steps do we follow?
So generally what all steps we have?
Collection of data.
Directly you start collecting
Collection of data, whatever we
Problem
require.
statement, sir.
So we identify. We need to
No,
take
sir.
select the topic.
Problem statement,
we have
sir.
Selection of problem.
Okay.
Objective of the research.
Okay. Okay, if someone have attended previously.
Problem statement.
Good.
Next, we'll go for the previous means literature, sir. Previous evidences means which are the based on the research anybody did.
Good.
Literatures.
Good.
Then we'll go for the sample.
Frame the hypothesis.
Okay.
Checking for errors, if any, in the previously collected data.
Checking errors, I'm not getting.
Yeah.
Okay, first the issue or the topic or what you would like to study. Okay, based on that, you're trying to identify a what?
Solution.
Problem. Okay, problem statement. So for that, what you're trying to do?
Formulate a hypothesis there.
Good.
And then maybe try out various experiments in support of the hypothesis that we are formulating.
Okay, what it is called as? review of literature.
Yeah.
Okay. You try to do a review of literature, then you try to frame a hypothesis. Okay, good.
Then we
Then
try to
you
draw
try
some
to
data collection analysis and
data collection. So before going to the data collection, what you try to do?
Preparing a questionnaire.
Yeah, questionnaire. Okay, good. Okay, good. Questionnaire, yes, right. So likewise, what all you try to do, okay, as part of your research, okay, that plan or a procedure or a planned sequences of techniques and methods what you're trying to adapt, okay, and what your research is going to be about, okay, so that particular details is called as research design. Okay, so research design is a plan of procedures for conducting the research. Okay, so what is your problem for that problem? So what is your variables? Okay, first you should select the population. Okay, what is population?
Targeting group.
People who we want to, a group of people who we have selected for certain experimentation.
Okay, for example,
Groups or learning group. One
actually,
example is
yeah, actually there's online classes now. First they should have done with online classes followed by offline classes. Because for offline classes there were around 10 to 12 people. For online classes there are around 51 people. So most of them they are not aware of what has been taught. Maybe first online maybe everyone would have attended, right?
Yes.
Maybe after
yeah,
that,
I guess that would have been better.
no, that would have been better actually. This is now reverse. Okay, we started with limited people. Half of the things were done. Now most of the people have joined. Okay, so no problem. So design, as you know, as we have planned for construction of the house. So how it is going to be, what it is going to be. So likewise, for conducting research, also we have a planned procedure. Okay, beforehand you try to plan. So that is called as a research design. Okay, or in simple terms, it is a detailed plan or a procedure of your research. Okay, so generally, what would be the issue or problem what you're trying to study? So for that, what would be the population? For example, population is the one, okay, the larger group whom you want to study. Okay, for example, if you're talking about employees of the organization, so all complete employees of the organization will become my particular population. Okay, or for example, opinion of this particular MSc second year psychology students on online classes. Okay, so among them, so who will become a population?
The whole group.
Students, online students.
Okay, whole group. So whole group, or maybe like for example, registered people maybe around 850. So can 850 all MSc second year students can become part of my experiment?
No, sir, you're
No,
taking
sir.
online.
Sampling
So
should be
only 51.
Excellent.
50 or 50.
Okay, but I am narrowing down to maybe online classes. So how many people are attending these online classes? Okay, I need to go with that. Okay, they all become my particular population because they are MSc second year psychology students. they enrolled, they paid fees. You getting me?
Yes,
And
sir.
especially if I'm talking about online classes, so they are attending online classes. But I don't know. So who have attended for the first class, who were present for second, and who is present for the third. If, for example, if I start asking about what is the opinion, maybe the person just who have attended now might be talking about only this particular class. You agree with this?
Yes, sir.
If it is a super
Yes, sir.
duper, no, you would be saying yes, excellent. Okay, maybe if this was not, maybe according to his expectation, maybe we will come up with opinion saying that okay, it was not so exciting. But who can give me the correct?
The ones who have attended 1, 2, and 3.
All the classes, all the classes. Those who have attended all the classes.
You getting me? So whoever is taking admission, maybe they're not called as my population, but there are certain conditions to be called as or to be included in my population. Okay, so maybe if I think that okay, off of the classes, maybe 8 classes, and I think maybe if 8 classes may not be possible for everyone. So maybe I am saying at least they would have attended 50% of classes. And if I take this particular opinion on the last class, will that be going to good? Or if I take now in between, will that be good?
Can you come
The
again?
last.
Yes, sir. We did not get your point.
If I'm talking about the entire online classes, so will that be good to take feedback at the end of the classes or to take in between?
At the end of the class.
Okay. And to be little bit of scientific, what I'm trying to tell is that at least they would have attended 4 classes or maybe 50% of classes. Okay. With the logic thinking that, okay, as they have attended at least 50% of classes, they have got some okay exposure to the classes. And if they give their opinion, maybe it is going to be genuine. Okay. And even in this particular, maybe 50% of attendance or we have attended 50%. If this is a small group of 40 people or 50 people, I can include everyone. But if it is in hundreds, so will that be possible to talk to each and everyone, take their responses?
Sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, I agree. If it is a 50, no, it's no problem.
Yes, sir.
But what if it is a 500 students?
It's
because we're talking about research. Okay, research is done on a large number of people. Okay, not small number of people.
You need to take a sample from this group.
Yes,
from
sir.
this population.
Samples.
Okay, so we're talking about population. So whoever is attending 50% of my particular classes, they become part of my larger group, which is called as population. Okay, so even to be included into population, there should be certain conditions. It's not that whoever have just enrolled can be taken as my population. Because I am talking specifically about the online classes. Maybe just if they have taken an admission, I cannot include them into this particular so-called study. You agree with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
For example, the person who have not attended, what opinion is going to give? Maybe if you have some friends, no, if someone have said maybe good, you will say good. If someone have said maybe they were not
According to
good,
others' opinion, he's
there's a possibility. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Yeah. So this is the reason you should always remember that. Okay, if I'm talking about employees, yes, employees, but especially when we're talking in terms of a research, you should be very, very specific. Okay, if you're talking about employees, who is that employee? For example, opinion or maybe like, okay, how much they are interested, or for example, about their organization. Okay, if someone have just entered the organization, or if someone is working for a bit longer time, so will the excitement would be going to the same?
No, sir.
But according to me, he is also employee. That person is also employee, no?
They are employees, but the experience, what they have is different.
Yeah, so that
with
is
the
the reason.
organization.
Yeah, so that is the reason. So you should specifically mention employee with maybe 2 years of experience, 3 years of minimum experience. So this is how certain conditions has to be laid down, and whoever have that particular conditions met, so I can include them into the larger group, which is called as population. Okay, as I said, maybe the larger group in hundreds may be not possible for me to study. So based on the time period, based on the purpose, based on the resources what I have, so I will narrow down to a small group. Okay, so that small group is called as
Population.
sample.
Samples.
The larger group, population.
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 Okay, as there are hundreds, maybe not possible for me to talk to 500 people. Or even with this 50 people, if I have to go and talk to them, I don't know from where different places they are. You agree with them?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
if you think that if I can send them a Google link and all that, yes, I can do that. But there is no guarantee that that particular person only filling that particular form. You agree with that?
Yes, sir.
You agree?
Yes, sir. Physical evidence won't be there.
Maybe out of curiosity, maybe my particular student's son is thinking that only just yes and no's, no? Is ticking, yes, right, exciting, bad, very bad. But my particular seriousness about this particular feedback can be different. So maybe based on this particular feedback, maybe I'm designing some programs, or whether to continue this or not to continue this. Some serious action is going to be taken based on the feedback. But the other person maybe doesn't know about that particular seriousness. For him, it's only about just answering yes or no. So there is no guarantee that, okay, my particular population, out of population who have selected as a sample, only that person is answering that particular questionnaire. You getting me?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
research,
sir.
research is not so easy just to send a link. Then they have typed something and they have send it back to you. So based on that, you started saying, okay, this many people are liking, this many people are not liking. So my program is very success, grand success, super. Maybe not. So unless and until you directly go to them, talk to them, okay, take their responses directly. Okay, that's what called as empirical method. Okay, in the first unit it would be there. Okay, try to refer that. Okay, when you go and when you collect data directly, and when you have certain data or measures or certain things to verify and cross verify, then only it is called as a scientific study. Okay, we call it as empirical data. So population. So what is my population? How much of population? So for that population, okay, how they are selected. From that, I'm going to draw my particular select a number of people called as sample. Okay, for example, if to know whether the bowl of rice has been cooked or not, so how you check that? While cooking rice, what you generally do?
We take one grain of rice.
We'll pick one grain of rice and we'll see.
Is it the upper one you're trying to take, or you're trying to mix and you try to pick one and you try to press that?
We mix and take one.
The
Yes,
research,
sir.
research is also like that, same. Okay, so with what confidence you're trying to press that grain and saying that, okay, this entire bowl is either cooked or not cooked?
Experience.
Okay, because they are part of the entire collection of grains. You
Whole
agree with that?
grains. Yes, sir.
You picking one from that and you're trying to come to a conclusion. In the same way, if the population, and from within the population, if you're trying to select an unbiased group of people called samples, and based on their sample responses, you're trying to tell that, okay, this is what my particular entire group is having or feeling about this particular program. So when can I tell that? When I draw or select this little or limited number of people in a correct scientific way. Okay, so how you select the selected number of people from the entire people or the population? So that is called a sampling technique. So in research design, so they're talking about population sample. What sampling technique you are trying to use to draw the sample? As I said, maybe out of this 46, if only I need 6 people, if I pick maybe the top 6 people or top down 6 people, already there is a chance factor that they may be having better knowledge or no knowledge. So like this.
You mentioned something.
So how are you going to draw? How are you going to select? Okay, what technique you are going to use? Okay, so that has to be mentioned. So likewise, a detailed plan procedure of the entire thing about the research is called as research design. So how are you going to collect the data? Okay, so different techniques of data collection. Okay, so there are different techniques. So which type of technique you are going to use? Okay, so how are you going to collect data? So after collecting data, so what statistical techniques you are going to use? So how are you going to arrive at the final conclusions? So how are you going to report and how are you going to submit? So everything would be discussed. Okay, so that is called as research design. Okay, the complete planned procedures of the research you are about to take up or to carry out. Okay, so the functions of research design, like for example, it should be able to answer your objectives or with what intention you have selected that particular problem. So you should be answering that particular research problem. It should be solvable. It should be in a condition where you can arrive with certain conclusions. Okay, so if you have a problem, what you're trying to look at? So if you have a problem, what you're trying to know, with the help of research, arrive at a solution. Or for example, as we talked in terms of cause and effect, so you should be able to know what is the cause and what is the effect, or in what way this particular dependent variable is getting affected. And also this experimental design is going to tell you about, so how much of control you have on this particular intervening variables. So how scientifically we can establish the relationship between independent and dependent variables. Okay, then experimental variance. Okay, what is E? Before also said E is experimental. So the variation in results because of the experiments what you are trying to do, or experimental changes what you are introducing, is called as experimental variance. Variance is difference. Difference because of your experiments. Experimental variance. Okay, extraneous variance or the control variance. So what is extraneous? Intervening variables. Extraneous are
intervening
variables. So what is or how much of variance or difference is because of this extraneous variables, and how effectively you are controlling these particular extraneous variables. So how to control these extraneous variables? We talked about different techniques or methods of extraneous variables. So how much of control you have on extraneous variables? Then the last one is the error variance. Okay, so error variance is like because of some unknown factors, if there is any errors or if there is a difference in results, okay, so that can also be handled. For example, like fatigue, momentary changes, etc., individual differences, okay, as we talked about, okay, previous knowledge, etc. Okay, so that to certain extent can be handled at the time of what? Selection of
Problem.
selection of sample.
Sample.
S variables, we talked about E independent variables. Okay, so certain unknown variables, if you think, okay, so that is the reason you try to pick randomly. So when you try to pick randomly, so this particular type of individual differences are also getting, okay, distributed in the entire groups. So when I follow one particular sequence, no, there is every chances that, okay, some advantage is given to one particular group. So that is the reason we try to go with randomization, what is called as randomization. I don't know. So the sequence order and all that, I try to break that. So I try to pick randomly. Okay, so that these unknown errors also is distributed throughout the group. Okay, maybe if it is experimental or control group. Okay, so this is the function of research designs. Okay, so it's already 4:30, so we will wind it or stop here, and we will continue in the next class. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
everyone take care. Okay.
Have a nice weekend.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, my advice
Thank
would
you,
be,
sir.
okay, you try to look at the starting units.
Yes, sir.
Maybe
Will do, sir.
from block 3 we have started with this online classes. No, you try to look at block 1 and 2. Okay, you try to
Okay,
understand.
sir.
You will get this continuation. Okay, still I'm trying to connect, but it's not possible to tell entire thing. Okay, hope you understand.
We'll go through, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay then. Chalo, see you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Chalo, bye.
Yes, sir. Thank you.